All right, well, we are here at the 2022 virtual part of our Esport Summit at UAF, Esport Gaming Summit, sorry, at UAF. And we're going to get started on the second panel. And Amanda Langhorst, who is our director of our Business Applied Management program here at UAF, which we call BAM, is going to be doing moderating, the panel for us. So, and I'll let Amanda take it from here. So thank you to everybody that's here to join us so far.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much for the intro, Peggy. And once again, thanks to everybody for logging in. And it's great to see those live in our Esports Center as well. I will give just a quick introduction to some wonderful panelists that we have here for our next session, and then we'll jump right into some questions. So on this next panel, we have Dr. Katrina Adkins, the Director of Education Solutions at SHI International Corporation and Instructor of Gaming and Esports. We have Heath Day, Education Program Manager for GCI, and we also have Jeff White, Executive Director for the National Junior College Athletic Association Esports, also known as NJCAAE, and the Vice President for Legal, HR, Compliance, and DEI. So let's give a warm welcome to our panelists today. So first, I'm going to give you all a little opportunity to just expand on your roles a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourselves and your background. So Heath, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Thank you for the invite, and it's good to be here and see everybody that's here. I live here in Alaska. I'm in Anchorage, and my role with GCI is working exclusively with the schools and libraries across the state. And that includes the universities in a number of different capacities. Most relevant for this is working as the liaison with the Esports Center there in UAF, and making sure that the internet and the connectivity and kind of where things are going, that we continue to provide what the center needs, and trying to really provide the best opportunity for gamers across the state with high-speed internet and connectivity the best that we can. And the secondary piece of that for me is my background is in coaching traditional sports, and I was one of those converts who was pretty slow to catch on to the idea of esports, but I am now a huge supporter and a big fan. So I'll talk more about that and some of the other questions later.
Thank you so much, Heath. Dr. Adkins, would you like to go next?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to be here with all of you. So I've had kind of a wild journey, if you will. I've been in education over 20 years, but started as a kindergarten teacher. So never did I think that this is where I would be today, but took a huge role in just technology in general, technology integration in the classroom. And even all the way back to early 2000s, I always had a gaming station in my room for students, which everybody always kind of came in and thought, what is this person doing? But I always thought it was just, something that was really fun for the kids, and they were able to learn from it. And so as I went about my career, I was an instructional technologist. I was a director of technology, taught anything from kindergarten, middle school, high school, college, and now am the director of education solutions for a company in New Jersey. However, I work remotely, so I sit in Tennessee. So I actually technically work globally. I work a lot with the UK and esports, and kind of bridge those together as well, but really focus on K-12 and higher education across our country, and how we can get esports into as many schools as possible to be able to help our students. So, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Jeff.
Sure. Thank you, Amanda, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with everyone. I guess this evening here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in the afternoon there in Alaska. Again, my name is Jeff White. I'm the Executive Director for the National Junior College Athletic Association Esports. We are the only exclusively two-year college esports association in the world. We started in 2019. I actually joined the NJCAA at the beginning of 2019, and when I came down from Columbus, Ohio, I came down to be the first in-house counsel that the NJCAA had ever had, and within a few short weeks, Dr. Christopher Parker, the president and CEO of the NJCAA, which is the traditional sports side of the house, came to me and said, you know, we're getting a lot of people asking about esports, and I think we got to do something with that. Can you look into that? So this, of course, was all pre-name, image, and likeness. And so ultimately decided it was time to start a separate legal entity. And when we did that, I sort of raised my hand and said, you know, if you don't have anyone to run this, I'd be happy to do that. It really aligns with a lot of what I've done in the past. And so interestingly, I don't have a career or a background in higher education. While I was a vice president at a 2-year school in Southeast Ohio, my background really is in legal compliance and business operations. I was the director of human resources at the Supreme Court of Ohio for a few years, worked for the largest health care provider in Central Ohio, and also worked at the Eddie Bauer corporate and administrative offices in Central Ohio. And so I've worked in a lot of different places, and I think I bring a lot of that, I guess, the business practitioner approach to what we're doing here on a daily basis as we really look to grow our association. And we're, you know, finishing just our 6th semester of competition, and we're up to 150 colleges across the United States with 1 in Canada. So we're very thrilled about that.
That's incredible. And I love to hear all the diverse backgrounds that you all have, right? There's many different pathways to get to some really neat positions in esports and gaming. So we're going to jump right into the content of this panel, which is that collaboration between education and esports and gaming. So my next question is, what are some of the synergies between your current role and organization and esports, gaming, and education? So maybe we'll start with Dr. Adkins, and we'll go from there.
Sure. This is a huge question. So day in and day out, I live esports in terms of scholastic esports. So as we know, there's a very different side to, you know, the market of esports, and then of course scholastic esports. And so I come at esports from a couple of different angles. So I teach esports and gaming for a few different colleges, currently writing curriculum for this university as well. And then as a director of education solutions, I have a team of folks that we work across the country to bring esports to students across the country, as I mentioned earlier. And so primarily K-12 and higher education. So when I say we bring esports to students, we look at it through the lens of esports as a career opportunity, and not just in professional gaming. Obviously, it's extremely difficult to get into professional gaming, just like any other sport. But we look at it at all the job opportunities that students can gain. And so we help schools create that path, whether it's, you know, starting as a club, building out an entire program in their high school or college that has curriculum involved, but really getting students access to those jobs, such as, you know, broadcasting, marketing, game design, all of these great things that are involved. We also help design esports arenas. So day in and day out, we are on calls with schools, and they say, hey, we've got this huge big space. What do we do? And so we design those spaces for them. We bring in all of the pieces to the puzzle, the equipment, the furniture, the lighting, you know, all the broadcasting pieces for it. And so it is absolutely incredible. I just, like I said earlier, I can't believe this is the job I am in. It's so much fun to be able to make an impact on education in this way. And so personally, I have 2 kids, an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. And my 18-year-old, oh, he's been a gamer since he was 7. He started his own YouTube channel. And I was the mom that everybody kind of rolled their eyes at. I was the mom that was like, yeah, you know, get on YouTube. And sure, you're not 13. I'll sign you up for everything social media. And, you know, and even my own mom looked at me like, this is dangerous, and he shouldn't be gaming all day long, and you know, what about school? And I'm, yes, straight A's. You know, hey, if he wants to sit and talk with kids all over the world and game, I'm for it. And so I got him his entire setup and helped him, you know, get everything set up. And he actually traveled the country with me and spoke on gaming and the importance of it in school. So we spent a number of years doing that. So I live life as a mom, also listening to the yelling and shouting and screaming of gaming. And he goes off to University of Tennessee, Knoxville this fall, and I'm trying to hopefully get him into the esports team there. We'll see. So that's kind of in a nutshell my life and how that bridges over into esports daily and how I'm able to help students.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And Jeff, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah. For us, as I mentioned, we're a national governing body comprised of 2-year colleges, and so for us, it's why we exist. The synergies between esports and education, and so we kind of come at it from a variety of different views. I think I'm so thankful that I recently served as a vice president at a college, because I learned very quickly. It was my first time working on a college campus, and I learned very quickly that everybody, it doesn't matter what your role is responsible for recruiting, retention, and completion. And all of that, of course, is related to engagement. Everybody affects that. And so I was just, I guess, acutely aware of each of those measurables, if you will, on a college campus. And so I had a lot of different responsibilities while I was at that college. And so I just remember walking through our student center. And of course, the basketball courts were generally pretty full, and the weight room was generally pretty full. But the one area that was constantly packed was the gaming center. And what was interesting is it wasn't just the students that were playing. It was really mostly students that were watching and just kind of hanging out. And what I liked most about it, because again, I've been working in the DEI space from a corporate perspective for about 20 years. It was the most diverse spot on our campus. You would find just a melting pot of faculty, staff, and students all standing around together, playing and watching and talking about esports. And then it was really cemented for me. I went to my first sort of esports convention at the end of 2019, and I've never seen anything like it. I've been to hundreds, as I'm sure many of you have, hundreds of conventions, professional conventions. And I've never seen such a diverse collection of individuals, all ages, races, genders. I mean, everything, all under one roof with one common theme and passion: gaming. And I remember calling my former college president, and saying, you got to start sending recruiting representatives to these sessions, because if you've got an esports team, and I know we did, because I helped start that, and we're giving scholarships, there are going to be literally thousands of people walking around, and there are no other colleges that are there. And so I recognized very quickly that, and this is, I guess, the different perspectives. First and foremost, from an institutional perspective, it's an enrollment strategy, right? It's about getting students to come to your campus, to come to your school. And then most importantly, when they come, they stay and they finish. And so we focus very heavily on really being a member-focused, member-driven association. But the flip side to that is it's got to be a really solid experience for the students. And so we really focus also very heavily on creating a really fun and meaningful experience for the students. And so from an education standpoint, we certainly do have partnerships and look to do curriculum design, and we're looking to create different certifications and programs. And we were the first association or governing body to be STEM.org accredited, and we're looking to create those academic connections, and that's certainly important to us. But I have a traditional sports background. I grew up playing traditional sports by day and video games at night. And all of the lessons that I learned playing traditional sports, you just can't learn anywhere else. And so oftentimes when you hear folks talk about education and esports, they're talking about book learning, I guess is what we used to call it, right? But I really focus on that experiential learning as well. I mean, what is it? What's being part of a team, learning how to deal with failure. That's the thing about traditional sports. Yeah, if take baseball for example, if you fail 7 out of 10 times in baseball when you're up to bat, you're pretty good. You don't get every single job that you apply for. So I think learning those lessons, learning how to stick together as a team, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, that's a lot of the educational stuff that we focus on.
Yeah, that's huge. And in my experience in gaming, I think I've failed more than I've succeeded. So I think it's definitely a skill I've learned.
Welcome to the club.
Totally. Heath, would you like to add anything to that?
I think synergy with my current role in organization, a little bit different, working for an internet provider, in that for schools to be able to have esports teams, they have to have connectivity. And so that was probably the most simplistic piece of where my role and our organization crosses over. By extension of that, having knowledge of what type of connectivity is available in different parts of Alaska is a dynamic that a lot of people in the lower 48 don't have to think about or worry about. And so where I've been able to kind of cross the bridge and help building connections inside the state is getting programs started in communities where esports is still, gaming is popular, but the idea of esports is still a brand new or foreign concept. And so working with schools directly on what are the steps they need to go through to get a team established. And even before that was working with ASA to get esports to be sanctioned in the state, to where it was something that the schools could do, teachers could use, eligibility and attendance in class as kind of using esports as a motivating factor for those things. So that's where my role really started, was just getting it to be more widely accepted. And now it's in answering a lot of questions and exposing people in Alaska who love games but still haven't heard or don't know the full extent of what is possible through esports. And so trying to bridge that gap and then getting them the connectivity that they need at their schools so their teams can compete and really be a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we've already gotten one really great question from an audience member. Those in the audience, please feel free to continue to share in chat. And I think it kind of brings together some stuff that you all have already touched on, one being recruitment and retention. And in addition to that, some of the unique pieces of being in Alaska. So Evelyn in chat has shared a question for all of you. Do you see scholarships through esports as a way to entice more people from the lower 48 to come up to Alaska, by providing more of a competitive and professional atmosphere? And kind of a follow-up to that, what types of scholarships are possible in esports? So is there anybody that would like to take the lead on that question?
Yeah, sure. I think I can take the lead on that.
Thank
We
you,
actually
Steph.
have, with the NJCAA and the NJCAA, we actually have a strategic partnership with UAF. And so, and that's precisely what we're looking to accomplish. And so from an esports perspective, and I think Heath was just sort of hitting on this, folks are familiar with gaming but not esports. And so we have focused on helping folks understand that there are esports pathways just as there are traditional sports pathways, and creating that recruiting connection and pipeline, just like you have in traditional sports. So in traditional sports, schools generally go, the coaches and administrators all know each other, and they come watch the practices, they come to the games, and they recruit because they know that that's a solid program. And I want to get students from that high school or to your program. It's not any different in esports. And that's really what we're working to create. So we have a lot of members that give a variety of different kinds of scholarships, whether it's full scholarships or partial scholarships. Some schools also offer tuition waivers. But I know this, if a four-year school is offering any kind of institutional aid based on esports participation, there is huge interest. The challenge is and I think Dr. Adkins was hitting on this, most parents aren't aware. And so there's just a lot more education associated with it. But yes, absolutely, it's a great way to get more students to come up to Alaska.
Dr. Adkins or Heath, anything to add to that?
I completely agree with Jeff. And also, Heath, when you said that you were late to the game, I thought, no, you're not, because even though esports has been around for a while, I mean, now is such a great time to, spread the message, to get involved, to help parents understand it's this whole community effort. And I still to this day see so many educators and parents and even students not even understanding what esports is, what it can bring to the life of a student. Even outside of professional gaming, like I mentioned earlier, I think it's still very much has this stigma of, kids in a basement, eating Doritos and drinking Coke and or whatever, and that's all they do, and it's just not true. So there's just so much involved, and I think it's a great time to be a part of this and spreading the awareness and the message.
I don't feel like I need to add a ton to that, other than I'll say that in the scholarship realm, I think one place that Alaska is unique right now is that the scholarships are by and large going to be academic related to the business program, not athletically related like you might think of getting a basketball scholarship or football scholarship, just because unless something is developed that I'm unaware of in the last 6 months, there's not a team in the state that is to the point of recruiting outside of the state and bringing kids in, and that opportunity is still something that I think is coming for Alaska, but we're not there yet. And then I'm not getting too weird looks from Shayna or John or anybody yet, but maybe that has evolved and I haven't been a part of it. But to my knowledge, I think right now it's really around the career opportunity, which I think is a much bigger field of opportunity anyway for kids than going on to be the professional gamer. It's all of the other opportunities around it. And with that, I would say that the biggest opportunity I see in Alaska right now is we need somebody to step up and be the leader at the middle school, high school level for esports. The universities have people who grasp this and are running with it, but across the state, there's not really a lot of leadership at the middle school, high school level right now to own what this looks like going forward, and how do we make this something that's bigger. And as I talk with esport coaches from the different high schools and I'm a part of conferences with them, there's a lot of questions like where are we going and how does this continue to grow and evolve at the high school level in Alaska. And so I think the real opportunity, like I said, is there are people who are currently making decisions about this that weren't a part of esports. It wasn't a thing when they were growing up, and it's still a little mysterious to them. And so it's a prime opportunity for kids with a background and a knowledge to step in and be the leaders and really cast a vision that everybody will follow, because that's what's needed right now.
Thank you so much, Heath. And hopefully there's some people on this call that are potentially willing to be some of those leaders in our community. All right, so I'm going to try to combine the next question on our list and a great one that popped up in chat. So my next question is, are there any currently kind of fun projects or initiatives that you all are working on in your roles related to esports, gaming, and education? And a question in chat, if any of you have examples of ways that you've used video games like Fortnite or Minecraft to motivate students to learn math. We'd love to hear about that as well. And maybe we'll start with Dr. Adkins, if you don't mind starting again, that would be great.
Yes, these are two totally separate questions, and actually I can combine them in the project that I'm working on right now. So I actually wore my project shirt, so Battle Academy. This is, if you go to battleacademy.gg, this is actually the world's first scholastic esports tournament held on a professional gaming platform. So, and this is free for high school students and college students. So we would love to, any students on here, we would love to see you enter this. We would love to help support you. So we offer close to $50,000 in scholarship, in prizing, all different kinds of stuff. But the reason that we developed this is because, you know, we see all these tournaments going on the scholastic side, both K-12 and college, and we wanted to bring this professional experience for students. And so we got together with a company called UGC. I don't know if anyone's familiar with UGC, but this is the tournament platform that we host this on. And so for the collegiate side of things, we are now signing up for our spring tournament if you compete in Halo. So that's what we're running right now. Typically in the last couple of years, we've ran Valorant, we've ran Rocket League, and we are talking about putting Minecraft into this. Because of the immense opportunities. And you would not believe, actually, any students on here, you would believe how many college students still play Minecraft. My son, again, who is 18, going into college, he still plays Minecraft. I mean, it just keeps getting better. And I can tell you real quick a story that I have, my first introduction to Minecraft. So this was, more than 10 years ago. And of course, my two kids personally were young. And I was in the bedroom, they were in the living room. My daughter, I just hear her scream. Now she was probably 6 years old at the time. And, you know, Mom, he put chickens in my world. And I was like, what are they doing? What are they talking about? Like chickens and this world? And I had no clue what Minecraft was. And so they showed me, and I thought, why do these kids want to play this low graphic game? Like this looks like back from, you know, what I used to play. And then I started to understand it, and I started to watch how the worlds were built, and I started to see this curricular connection to it. So fast forward to today, obviously Microsoft owns Minecraft EDU, and we see all kinds of uses for it in the classroom. I mean, from social studies to art to math to, I mean, any subject area, Minecraft can be brought into it. And it is such an exciting time for schools to grab hold of that and get into the Minecraft EDU side, which if you've experienced Minecraft, the EDU side of it is a little bit different than Minecraft itself. So if you do have a Microsoft EDU account, Minecraft EDU account, you'll have to check that out. It's a little bit different, but there's so much that can be done. And they create, within the EDU side, there are worlds that you can go into. So if you're interested in social studies, if you're interested in math, you can go into these worlds and experience all of these different things. And side note, the guy that designs a lot of these worlds, I know pretty well. And he is just absolutely phenomenal. And every time I watch him build, I am just like sucked into just watching him. It's absolutely amazing because I'm horrible at it. So hopefully that answered that. I was kind of all over the place with the two, but it's quite exciting. So hopefully some others on the panel have some other ideas here too.
You did a great job connecting the two. Thank you so much. Heath, would you like to go next?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question for me? It glitched and I was trying to type something when you asked it the first time, and I was like, I'm not sure which question that one was.
No problem at all. So question is, are you currently working on any fun projects or initiatives connecting esports and gaming and education? And then there was a question in chat, if anybody had an example of using popular teenage video games like Fortnite or Minecraft to motivate students to learn math.
The biggest project I would say right now for me is the gaming center there at UAF, and keeping the connectivity there. And you know, the next piece that's kind of ongoing right now is increasing the bandwidth, because the popularity is there and there's more need and more demand. So as Alaska grows, you know, kind of leading the nation in the amount of bandwidth that's available. I have 2 gigs at my house, and there's a lot of places in the country you can't get 2 gigs. And so the next step with the university is going to be growing that bandwidth, which I believe is still at 1 gig, but getting it to 2 gig and then to 10 gig. And that's in the very near future for us as we just continue to grow out our infrastructure. So it's not sexy or exciting, but that's like the basics of what is needed for all of this to keep happening. Is you got to have the bandwidth to make it happen. So there's that piece. I know there's been talk about expanding the gaming center and into a bigger footprint to accommodate more crowds and more people as that grows. So I look forward to being a part of that in those discussions as that grows. The other piece that I would say going back to working with the schools across the state is it's constantly a question of, well, what do we need and how do we do this and where do we get the pieces and the parts? And so every conversation that I have with a coach who's trying to start a team, it's about where they can get the equipment, and then where can I learn how to coach better? And is there anybody that's training coaches and teaching? Because, I'm not a huge gamer, or the games I like to play are not here anymore, and they're not popular in this anymore. So the big pieces that I would say for me are really just around the physical things that are happening to facilitate and accommodate the growing popularity in the state of Alaska.
Thank you so much. And Jeff?
Well, nothing says excitement, or nothing embodies excitement like bylaw governance. I know that has everyone just super excited to hear that. But in all seriousness, governance for us, interestingly, is very exciting, because it's all sort of to use a legal expression, cases of first impression as it relates to collegiate esports. And so we focus very heavily on member experience and student experience. And so for us, and it's a perpetual project, at the end, before, during, and after every single semester, we're gathering information, gathering input, getting feedback from our students and our members about what titles should we be offering, what should the rule sets be for those titles, and how should we organize competition. I'm sure everyone on here that has participated in collegiate esports or in high school or middle school esports has experienced no-shows are a huge problem, huge. We have focused very heavily on it, and for our multiplayer games, whether it's any team-based objective, anything that really is more than one player, our no-show rate is around 5%, which is really good for esports. But coming from the traditional sports world, that's still crazy to me. I'm a big Notre Dame football fan, and Notre Dame's not usually concerned about USC showing up for the game, right? You don't have 80,000 fans, wondering, man, should we go to the game Saturday? Because I don't know if USC is going to show up. And I don't know if the TV productions, the production crew, should we really go? Do you think USC is going to be there? And it's interesting because we often hear from esports participants, coaches, and administrators, we should be treated with the same level of respect as traditional sports. And the first thing I say is, until you can get people to show up on a consistent basis when they're supposed to, you're never going to be. And so all this to say, we're really focused on designing competition that meets the needs of students and of schools. And so we're actually creating really almost a 4-tiered approach to competition, which is going to be a pretty significant undertaking for our association. But in short, we're going to have a competitive tier where each school has the ability to put forth one competitive team, sort of a club tier, which is still competitive, but maybe they're not quite at the skill level as the top team. And then we're going to have an intramural solution that's available to everyone. And we're going to take the solo player, the single player games, and they're going to be sort of their own separate entity. And what we've done is we've tried to apply a lot of the traditional sports, what works best from a traditional sports perspective, to the world of esports. And so one of the comments that we received at the outset was, Swiss scheduling and queue-based systems are a really popular form of esports competitions. And that's good because it can eliminate no-shows, but it's difficult because there's no scouting. So you don't know who you're playing. And it really diminishes, I think, that collegiate competitive experience. And so we're trying to take the best parts of that, the tier one, that really, really competitive focused students that are really committed to doing it. And from a competitive perspective, we want to provide that competitive experience for them. And so, we're right sizing, if you will, what we're offering. So we're going to have that traditional scheduling on tier one. Tier two is going to be that sort of Swiss-based queue model, where people come and you get your games and you play. And then the intramural solution is just to log in at this time if you want to get queued up for a match. And so all this to say, again, I know to a lot of people that probably sounds pretty dull, but for us, I mean, it's a significant challenge in the world of esports. And we're really focused on creating a great experience for everyone that participates. And so it's something that we're spending a lot of time on.
Sounds pretty fun to me, I think. So thank you so much for sharing all those really neat projects. And thanks to Dorothea for sharing that question in the chat. We're going to transition a little bit into talking about kind of how esports and gaming and education connects to careers. And we had another question come in from Discord. The question is, do students ever try to create a career by combining their major with the gaming industry? And if so, how are they able to integrate the two interests and expertise? And if you have any other comments on kind of that relationship between education, esports and gaming, and then careers after that. And Dr. Adkins, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, so this is actually happening to me personally, and I didn't plan on talking about my own kids so much tonight, but this is happening right now. So, so my son, if you just met him, you would not necessarily know he's, so into esports as much as he is, because he is a music student. You would think he's going to major in music. He is a percussionist. He lives and breathes music. He goes to everything he can possibly go to. He is into drum corps, everything. So he just got done auditioning, got accepted to University of Tennessee band, marching band for next year. And so he is, however, not majoring in music. He's not even taking a minor in music yet. So I was just talking with him the other day. He is actually majoring in computer engineering, which is fantastic. I'm thrilled about that. But I said, what if you took a minor in music and were a part of the esports team and somehow connected it, because somebody has to make the music for the games. I mean, there are companies out there that the game designers have to go to and the companies have to go to get that music put into the games. What if, because he loves composing, so what if you combined those, took a minor in music, and that became something that you did, even if it's on the side, even if you just did this as a passion project or whatever. But that is one way that they can, that I thought, hey, that's kind of unique. They could combine those two together. We also have, the obvious, students that love design work, that love creation, that are really great at artwork and Photoshop and all those. We have to have graphic designers, and they're easily able to connect those in the gaming industry. Same with marketing, broadcasting, any of those careers can easily be connected. And one of the things that we focus on at my company, SHI, is bringing curriculum into schools to connect exactly what this question is asking. So for instance, if a high school has a marketing course, and they want to, oh, wonderful, somebody put career pathways, fantastic. And they want to bring esports into that. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to create an esports marketing course. You don't have to go to the state and get that approved. You don't have to create a whole separate one. But what if you brought esports into the marketing course that you already have in your high school? It's very relevant to be discussing esports in that marketing course. Same with your broadcasting courses, same with design, same with your art courses, music, any of that. Why not bring that into your day-to-day discussion? The problem is making sure that the educators, the teachers that are teaching those know what's going on in the esports market. And so this goes back to educating those teachers and bringing this up as a subject area for those. So yeah, great conversation. I love this question.
Thank you so much. And Jeff, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I think for us, I mean, Dr. Adkins covered just about everything there, but what I would say is similar to traditional sports. You know, people think there's a lot of ways to work in traditional sports without being a professional athlete. And so there are, you can't call it a cottage industry because it's far too large to be that. But there are so many different careers. I mean, just, you know, off the top of my head, video production and streaming and event management, you know, tournament operations. And that's to say nothing about the game development and design and platform design and security, network security. I mean, there's literally, there are so many different spinoffs associated with it. And that's the educational piece. I'll tell you, for us, the biggest key to understanding that we found the career opportunities isn't all the possibilities that are out there. And it's exactly what Dr. Adkins just said, but it's almost the opposite. It's parents understanding that there are opportunities. There is such a huge knowledge gap with parents. Dr. Adkins, quite honestly, is maybe the first parent I've ever heard say that they were pushing their kid into esports, which is just awesome. Because it's usually the complete opposite. It's all the stereotypes that everyone on this call, this meeting or call has heard and seen before. And so I realize that might not necessarily be spot on with the question, but for us, again, it's recognizing that it doesn't just mean being a professional esports player, and getting parents to understand that there are real, meaningful, high-paying jobs that, guess what, your child is going to enjoy.
Jeff, on that note, I am actually in this Facebook group, and I won't name the name of the Facebook group, but basically it's for parents and technology, and it's almost a group that's kind of like negative technology. And I joined this group more for giggles, I think. But so this question came out in this group. You know, my child games all the time. I can't get him off the computer, even in the morning. He won't get ready. He doesn't brush his hair, you know, all this stuff. And of course, you know, I chime in and I'm like, great, you know, let him do it. He can get jobs from this. And it did not go well for me. So I'm surprised I didn't get kicked out of the group, but there is such a lack of understanding. But I do want to give a shout out to this group, Coalition of Parents in Esports, COPE. Is the acronym. They have taken on this challenge of educating parents and have done just a phenomenal job with it. So if you've not checked out COPE, please do Google it and check them out. They're amazing. So it's a great way to get connected as a parent in the industry as well.
Thank you so much. And Heath, we'll have you wrap up this question.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it back to Alaska again, and the esports provides a unique opportunity because of the remote access, that you don't have to be in whatever central place, wherever the most gamers or the best game. You want to play high school football. Texas is like the best state in the country for high school football. But you don't have to go there to play esports against it. Like the universal ability to connect and to be a part of it is a game changer. And what I tell kids all the time is you have to find what you're passionate about and keep pursuing that. We are, as humans, at our best when we are doing what we're passionate about. We will problem solve, we will be resourceful, we will come up with all kinds of creative solutions when it's something we're passionate about. And so if a kid finds what they're really passionate about and they pursue it, they'll figure out a way to make that keep happening in some way that is totally, like, maybe the job doesn't exist today, most likely, or if it does, they're completely unaware of it. Now, I grew up in New Mexico as a kid who loved basketball and never in a million years thought that I would live in Alaska or work for an internet company. But through pursuing basketball, that's where I've ended up. Today, I'm sitting at a state basketball tournament right now and on this panel with you guys. And what's happening is, as I continue to pursue my passion of basketball, I have found jobs and opportunities that I didn't know existed that allow me to keep doing what I love. And I think if people continue to pursue what they're passionate about, those opportunities will continue to show themselves and be created, because they're not always just like sitting right there ready, but you are more creative and resourceful when you're doing what you're passionate about. So I would say for kids who want to get into esports or opportunities, etc., if you just keep pursuing, there are so many opportunities. You will find something, and it may not be with the company or the school or the whatever that you think it is, but there are more opportunities out there.
That is great advice. Thank you so much, Heath. And I want to draw attention to just a couple things in chat too. John has shared a great document here about esports career pathways. And there's also a great course that if anybody's interested in fall, BA or Sport 375, which is the esports business course. So I encourage you all to take a look in chat at some of those. I feel like we could talk for about 4 hours on this same topic. I'm so appreciative of all these great responses. So I'm going to try to combine a couple questions. We'll maybe do one more question with the group. And then if anybody has a question in chat, then we should have a moment for kind of final thoughts as well. So just kind of a general question, what do you all see as the biggest opportunities, and also if there's any challenges for universities, high schools, et cetera, facing this industry as it kind of matures in those areas? And let's see, Jeff, would you like to go first?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question? I've got
Sure.
text messages that are coming in on a separate situation. I apologize.
No problem. So the question is, what are some of the opportunities and also potential challenges for universities, high schools, et cetera, facing the industry as it matures?
So I think the challenge that everyone faces, honestly, are the publishers and licensing, and just especially for four-year schools, especially, who do you sign up with? You know, at least in the 2-year space, you've got the NJCAA, right? I mean, we're the only group that does exclusively 2-year. You know, on the traditional sports side, you've got the NCAA and the NAIA, but there you don't have that yet in the 4-year space. I do think that at some point there's going to be one large conglomerate of 4-year schools. There's just too much money that's available, and people are really starting to see, companies are starting to see the resources that are pouring into esports and what you can get out of it. So all this to say, I think there's a lot of different choice that's out there for 4-year schools. So they might not necessarily know where to go, and in some ways, it's almost hitching your wagon to the correct horse, right? I mean, if you sign up and you really heavily leverage one group and it doesn't last, then you know you're almost starting over with another association. And you know, for us, history matters. The NJCAA has been around since 1938, and one of the reasons why we're the obvious choice on the esports side is because we have the long history of governance and tradition on the traditional sports side. And so, you know, people want to know, it matters if you won a national championship, and doing that with an association that's gone really diminishes that accomplishment, I'm sure, to a lot of folks. So I think that's so choice and publishers.
Oops, thank you so much, Dr. Adkins.
Yeah, Jeff, it's funny that you bring up all this money that's out there, because I'll tell you, the challenge that I hear every single day is budget. We don't have the money. We can't buy these, you know, the equipment. We don't have space. Where do we find the funding? And I'll tell you, my company actually works with the grants office. And so we do free funding reports for universities, for schools, organizations, government, communities, where they can find funding for their program. And so it has just changed things dramatically in terms of finding that funding for organizations. One of the catches is, in order to find that funding, I'm finding that when we go to write grants, we have to attach it somehow to STEM or CTE. It can't necessarily just be, we want to create a room because gaming's cool and new and shiny and fun. It has to have that career connection to it. And so one of the great things about working with the grants office is we're able to kind of tie those in. Another issue that I see is equity. This is a huge issue across the board. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about, of course, is women in gaming, women in esports. And I know you had someone from Game Hers on the first panel, so it was great to see them. But the company that I work for is actually the largest woman minority private company in the world. And so the fact that our company is owned by a woman and she believes so much in esports and what it can do for students, I just absolutely feel it's just amazing to be able to go and work for somebody like that each and every single day. But you know, outside of that, making sure that students have access. So if their school doesn't have the funding or can't write the grant, or you know, isn't able to get the machines needed to have a full esports program, well, we can look to communities, we can look to partnerships. For example, our company has funded Garden State Esports, which is the state of New Jersey, to keep esports free for students for the next 2 years. We don't want students to have to pay to be a part of esports. And so there's companies out there all over that are willing to come forth and create equitable situations for students. So you know, just quickly wanted to raise those points.
Yeah, go for it, Jeff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Dr. Adkins, sorry, Heath, I'll be quick, I promise, mentioned something that I think is so critical when we talk about equity and esports. I'm also a Title IX administrator and trainer, and there's a huge misconception that esports is automatically going to throw your school out of Title IX compliance. That's just not the case. It's not a 1-for-1 comparison. It's not a dollar-for-dollar comparison. And so I honestly believe that finding an opportunity to educate organizations and institutions and administrators that just because you add esports and it might happen to have more males than females, that doesn't mean that you're automatically out of whack. In fact, if you're taking steps like at the Game Hers, I know they have their collegiate program. Signing up for that program is such a strong Title IX message and compliance message to show that you're not just posting flyers that say, hey, come play esports. We really like women to play too. I mean, yeah, if you're doing that, that's not gonna do anything. But if you're committed to it and you're really invested in it, then it's not a dollars for dollars and a person to person comparison. And so I just think that's a huge misconception.
Thanks so much for adding that in, Jeff. And Heath.
Man, I had my own answer, and then I kind of want to respond to the stuff that they've said. So I'll start with what I feel like is the conundrum here when we say that this industry, there's so much money, right? Like billions and billions of dollars are flowing through this industry, but then we have teams and people saying, "Oh, we don't have the money. We can't. Like, how do we get the equipment? How do we get started? Because we don't have the money." And I think there is a ton of money out there, whether it's through grants, like Dr. Adkins mentioned, or through sponsorships, right? Like you look at the top teams, how are they making it work? It's through sponsorship and it's through promotion that they're getting out there. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to find the funding to do it. What I see as the bigger challenge is the ongoing changing, like Jeff was mentioning, with which games are current or which games are in the high school level, which games are accessible, right? Like, so the state of Alaska, ASAA doesn't really have a whole lot of knowledge around esports, and I'm being very kind in that. And so what they have done is outsourced it to Play Versus to run it. And with that, you have this weird mixture of which games are available, and it keeps changing season to season, year to year. It's not the same games that kids can sign up and play. And that's really, really hard. And going back to what you were saying earlier, Jeff, about attendance for traditional sports, you don't worry about people showing up, especially the other team, right? And you also know that if we build X facility, a field, a court, or whatever, we're going to be able to use that for as long as we have teams. In this space, that's constantly changing. Well, the computers that we had, we need to upgrade. We need new keyboards. We need, like, is an ever like evolving situation where you're constantly trying to get new equipment in addition to the games themselves changing. And that is, I think, an extra nuanced piece that, again, education around this for the parents and for the coaches to know what are the challenges and how I can actually support my kid really growing in this. Parents are not at all shy about signing their kids up to go to a sports camp. In fact, they'll sign them up for the whole summer to go from one camp to the next, to the next, to the next. It's like daycare through the summer. But when it comes to esports, it's like, well, I don't even know how to help. And then oftentimes it's counter, and I want them on a screen less, or I want them to do something different. I think there's just some real opportunity that is there. And so the biggest challenge that I see, what I said earlier, is a lack of leadership. In Alaska in particular, a lack of leadership at the high school level of who's driving the ship and where is it going? Because without somebody really doing that, it's going to continue to be random spinoffs and start, stop, and you just can't get momentum when it's like that. So that's the biggest challenge that I see, and I'm trying to figure out who that person could be. Luke was great for it, and I would think everybody would love to see Luke come back and do it again. I don't think that's where Luke is headed professionally. I think he's kind of going a different route right now. So who that next person is, she's still on here. I think she dropped off. There are a few people on this call that I think have a chance of being that person, and I would love to see that happen. But I think that's going to be the natural progression, is that it's going to be somebody coming out of the program at UAF. It makes the most sense to me. Somebody who has a background in knowledge, education, and experience that can step in and say, this is a prime opportunity for me, not only to build a career, but to provide an opportunity for kids across this state to grow and have more opportunities than they've ever had before.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think that's a great note to wrap up with, that you all have provided so much for us to continue to think about, especially in this connection between education, esports and gaming, and potential careers in the future. And I'm so appreciative of you all sharing a little bit about your work and everything that you all are adding to this industry, and ending with a lot of inspiration of where we can go next, and hopeful that those on this call can kind of take some of that leadership and advocacy that's needed as we continue to move forward. So a big thank you to Dr. Adkins, Heath, and Jeff for joining us today, and let's give them a virtual round of applause. We appreciate your time and energy, and I will pass it back off to Peggy.
Awesome. Thank you all. And thank you, Amanda, for being willing to moderate the panel. And it was great having the three of you today to share your expertise with us. We really, really appreciate it. And 45 minutes does not do justice to what each of you do on a daily basis. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to hit pause, and we'll all be back here in 2 minutes to talk about mental health and gaming. And then Mike Jewell will also be telling us about the in-person / online gaming night tonight and how you can join. So we'll be back here in a second.